I know it's a bit dark, but give it a chance. See if I can get in. Pull my leg up just for the crutch. Let's see. There's nice. Oh. Really nice.
Okay, very good. Let's look at Romans 4:11. You'll notice something that was done that was a sign that even showed Abraham was different. Romans 4 and verse 11. Who'd like to read that? Okay, Sister Bassino, please.
And he received a sign in the circumcision to see the righteousness and the faith he had while in his uncircumcised state, so that he might be the father of all those having faith while uncircumcised, in order for righteousness to be counted to them.
Okay, thank you. So what was the sign that made Abraham stand out from the others in that scene? Yes, exactly. So you'll notice there that they call it circumcised by faith. So it's interesting what happens later with the Israelites in circumcision and why that was used. Let's now continue with our first subheading, serving Jehovah in the post-flood war. We'll have paragraph 4 and 5 read.
How did Abram come to learn about Jehovah God? We know that Jehovah had faithful servants on earth in those days. Shem was such a man. Though not the eldest of his sons, he is often mentioned first. That was obviously because Shem was a man of outstanding faith. Footnotes read, similarly, Abram is often mentioned first among Terah's sons, although he was far from the oldest. Sometime after the flood, Noah referred to Jehovah as Shem's God. Shem showed respect for Jehovah and for pure worship. Did Abram know Shem? It is possible that he did. Imagine Abram as a boy. How fascinating it would be to learn that he had a little boy who was wide-eyed and witnessed over 4 centuries of human history. Shem had seen the evils of the pre-flood world, the great deluge that cleansed the earth, the founding of the First Nations as mankind multiplied in the earth, and the dark days of Nimrod's rebellion at the Tower of Babel. Faithful Shem stayed clear of that rebellion, so when Jehovah confused the languages of the tower builders, Shem and his family continued to speak man's original language, the tongue of Noah. That family included Abram. Surely then Abram grew up with a high regard for Shem. What is more, Shem remained alive through most of Abram's long life. So Abram may have learned about Jehovah from Shem.
From whom might Abraham have learned about Jehovah, and why may we conclude that this is a possibility? Sister White, please.
It is possible that Abram learned from Shem because Noah died a few years before Abraham was born, and then logical to conclude that Shem was still on the earth. But Shem would have passed down the stories from what it was like being in the flood, witnessing what the pre-world flood was like. And because Shem spoke the original language of Noah, and that's so many stories that he could have passed down generations. Just being with Shem would have probably helped Abram to be more faithful and to have a deep-rooted understanding of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay, very good, thank you. Why was Shem mentioned and not his older brother? Because Noah had three sons. Brother Matthews?
Well, Shem was spoken of as the most faithful one. Even Noah talked about Shem's Jehovahs. So Noah recognized that Shem, out of all of his sons, was the one that probably had the most faith, the most trust in Jehovah. So therefore, he was the one that naturally would have carried on and promoted true worship, whereas perhaps the other sons were not as diligent. We know one of them sinned and there were some bad things going on, but Shem was the faithful one, so the truth would have come from him.
Yes, very true, thank you. Now with Shem, how many years do you think there was overlapping with with Abram? Sister Matinal, please.
150 years.
Yes, it would have been quite a bit of his life, of Abraham's life. So, what does that tell you about the relationship with Shem and with Abram? Brother Matthews, please.
Well, the fact that they both spoke the same language was showing that true faith came through that line, and all the languages were confused. So Jehovah's true language came through Noah and Shem, and then Abraham spoke that same language. So that defines that is actually a connection to Jehovah.
Yes, very good. Okay. So we're going to see then how Abraham mentioned as the father of faith. We see now how he got this faith through Shem, and obviously through Noah, and going back to Abel, the first faithful one. So let's continue now with paragraph 6.
In any event, Abram took to heart the great lesson of the deluge. He endeavoured to walk with God as Noah had walked with him. That is why Abram rejected idolatry and stood out as different in earth. Perhaps even in his immediate family. However, he came to find a wonderful ally in life. He married Sarah, a woman who was exceptional not only in her beauty, but also her great faith in Jehovah. Though childless, that couple no doubt found much joy in serving Jehovah together. They also adopted Abram's orphan nephew, Lot.
So the 8th part for 6. How did Abraham show that he had taken to heart the great lesson of the deluge? Sister Dietrich, please. Sorry for your sister Dietrich.
Well, he knew the lesson that was learned in the days of the flood, that Jehovah doesn't want any rivalries, so any idolatry, any false worship, anything that had to do with other gods, he completely rejected that, although it was all around him. So just like Noah, he walked with God.
Yes, very good. And Sister Washington, please.
Imagine for someone with less faith, it must have been quite hard to imagine that Jehovah would do something, because now 10 generations on from the flood, that he knew that Jehovah had created the earth and the wickedness, but 10 generations
I know you're
on,
recording.
he might have thought it wouldn't happen.
I know you're recording.
There wasn't any real reason why you should stay close to Jehovah, but he did, and he made sure he surrounded himself with people who also felt the same thing, that I know would be a great partner to him.
Okay, yes. Very nicely put, thank you. So let's now continue with paragraph 7, please.
Abram never left Jehovah for the idolatry of earth. He and Sarah were willing to stand out as different from that idolatrous community. If we are to develop genuine faith, we need a similar spirit. We too must be willing to be different. Jesus said that his followers would be no part of the world and that the world would hate them as a result. If you ever feel the pain of rejection by members of your family or your community because of your decision to serve Jehovah, remember that you are not alone. You are in good company walking with God as did Abram and Sarah before you.
So how do followers of Jesus need to imitate Abram? Brother over here, please.
Majority of the world nowadays, they don't serve Jehovah. So we must be willing to be different from them.
Yes, very good. And let's look at John 15 and verse 19. Remember what Jesus told us. Sister Grant, could you read that for us? John 15 and verse 19.
The world would be fond of what is its own. Now, because you were no part of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, for this reason the world hates you.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Excuse me, in the back there, if you could turn that laser off.
Oh, sorry, no, it's not laser. Sorry.
Thank you.
No, it's not laser. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So, with that scripture, again, what can we expect as followers of Jehovah and imitators of Jesus? Brother McBride, please.
Well, we expect, as Jesus did, to receive persecution from the world.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus made sure that his followers were prepared for that. And that's why he reminded them of that a number of times. So that hatred was evident back in Bible times. It's evident in the time of Jesus' disciples, and something that Jesus' followers today will experience.
Yes, very good. Okay. So let's continue then with our next subheading, Go Out from Your Land, paragraph 8.
One day, Abram had an unforgettable experience. He received communication from Jehovah God. The Bible provides little in the way of specifics, but it does say that the God of glory appeared to that faithful man. Perhaps by means of that angelic representative, Abram received a glimpse of the overwhelming glory of the sovereign of the universe. We can only imagine how thrilled Abram was to see the contrast between the living God and the lifeless idols worshipped among his contemporaries. What was Jehovah's message to Abram? Go out from your land and from your relatives and come onto the land I shall show you. Jehovah did not say which land he had in mind, only that he would show it to Abram. First, though, Abram would have to leave behind his homeland and his relatives. In the cultures of ancient Middle East, family meant a great deal. For a man to leave his relatives and move far away was often considered a terrible fate. To some, worse than death itself.
Thank you. So the question A on page 9, Abram had what unforgettable experience?
Jehovah, through an angel, he spoke to Abraham, which would have felt like a blessing to Abraham because nobody except for Noah and his family had seen Jehovah before, had spoken to Jehovah before.
Okay, very good. And let's look at that scripture in Acts 7, 2 and 3. Acts 7, 2 and 3. Sister at the very back, please, if you could read that for us.
Men, brothers and fathers, listen. The God of glory appeared to our forefather Abram while he was in Mesopotamia, before he took up residence in Haran. And he said to him, Go out from your land and from your relatives and come into
to the land that I will show you.
Okay, very good, thank you. So, how do you think Abraham must have felt at that very point, at that very moment when he received this instruction? Okay, Brother Chris at the back, please.
We had discussed he might have heard from Shem how Noah felt when he had an angelic messenger talking to him about the ark. So he now got that experience himself. He was pretty amazed about that, so that Jehovah found him so faithful that he would speak to him. And so he listened very carefully to the instructions Jehovah gave, and he obeyed this instruction also.
Okay, very good. And the B part, what was Jehovah's message to Abraham? Sister over here, please.
The message was, go out from your land and from your relatives and come home into the land I shall show you.
Yes. So let's look, sorry, Sister over here, please.
Holding a
And
bit
there
of a
wasn't
pencil on
the direction into which land he would be going into. And for
Where's the
Middle
Lord
East,
Jesus?
family is a very important,
The
it's
Shem.
really part of the culture.
But a house of worship.
For Abram and Sarai,
You would expect to see it full.
the family behind with not a lot of direction, but showed a lot of faith they had in love for Jehovah.
Yes, very good, thank you. So let's continue now. We're going to look a little bit more to what was involved in leaving the land of Ur for Abraham and his family to go to this distant land in paragraph 10, please.
The box ring as well.
Yes, please, yes.
Leaving his land involved sacrifice. Ur was evidently a bustling, wealthy city. The box that reads, the city that Abram and Sarah left behind reads, Jehovah's organisation has long worked hard to bring colour and light to discussions of Bible characters and their background. For example, this description of the city that Abram and Sarah left behind appeared in the May 22nd, 1988 issue of The Awake. Halfway between the Persian Gulf and the city of Baghdad, there was an unsightly pile of mud bricks. It is but a lone sentinel keep watch over a vast stretch of sterile desert. Pummeled by dust stones and backed by a hostile sun, the brooding ruins sit in an austere silence that is broken only by the occasional howl of a nocturnal creature. This is all that remains of the once mighty city of Ur. But go back 4 millenniums, there was the eastern bank of the Euphrates River. Ur is a thriving city. Gleaming whitewashed houses and shops line its winding streets. Merchants and patrons haggle over prices in the bazaar. Workers labour day and night spinning milk-white thread from billow bundles of wool. Slaves tramp over creaking shipwrecks, growing under the weight of the imported treasures. All this bustle takes place in the shadow of the towering ziggurat that dominates the city's landscape. Worshippers come to the sanctuary to render homage to the deity that believed has brought prosperity to Ur, the moon god Nana or Sin. To one man, though, the odour of the sacrifices altered atop this massive pyramid of an unholy stench. His name is Abram. Back to the paragraph. Excavations have revealed that very comfortable homes existed in ancient Ur. Some had a dozen or more rooms for family and servants, all arranged around a paved inner courtyard. Common amenities included water fountains, lavatories and waste disposal. Remember too that Abram and Sarai were far from young. He was likely in his 70s, she in her 60s. He surely wanted Sarai to be reasonably comfortable and well cared for, what any good husband wants for his wife. Imagine their conversations about this assignment, the questions and concerns that might have arisen in their hearts. Abram might have been so pleased when Sarah rose to this challenge. Like him, she was willing to leave all the comforts of home behind.
Thank you. It was an extra long meeting there. Question on 10. Why might it have been a sacrifice for Abram and Sarah to leave their home in Ur? We can reference what was written there in the box on page 29 also. Sister Dietrich, please.
Ur was a prosperous city. It was evidently a site for merchants, so that brought a lot of riches to the area. People were living in very comfortable houses, which had even mountains and lavatories and so forth. And when you think about this, is 4,000 years ago, and I believe in Europe, people were living in caves and very, very simple structures. So this was actually very luxurious, whereas the rest of the Middle East probably would not have been as comfortable. So this was definitely an adventure.
Yes, very true. Thank you. And do you think it would have been easy for us if we were Abraham? Put ourselves back in that time. Look at all those creature comforts, a beautiful mansion, and then you're told to leave. What do you think could be going through your mind? Sister at the very back, please.
It would not be easy, and it was surely not easy for them. Like we read before, leaving relatives in that time would be worse than death. So I think this was not easy, but they obeyed Jehovah.
Yes, very good. And Sister Mercer, please.
If you think about going camping and living in tents, it seems fun for a little while, but after a while, you're just longing for those home comforts of a hot shower and a nice running toilet, those little things that we're so used to. And Sarah and Abraham would have been used to those comforts as well. So for them to leave all of that behind and willing to go and live in tents was a great sacrifice, but they didn't look at the sacrifice. All they looked at was what Jehovah promised them, and that made any comforts worthwhile.
Yes, very good. Let's continue now. We'll look at a little bit more on what was involved in getting ready for that move in paragraph 11 and 12.
With the decision made, Abram and Sarah had much to do. A great deal of packing and organising lay ahead of them. What would they take on this journey into the unknown, and what would they leave behind? More important, though, were the people in their lives. What would they do about age terror? They decided to take him and care for him along the way. He may have consented heartily if the account credits him as patriarch with taking his family out to earth. No doubt he had given up idolatry. Abram's nephew, Lot, would have also accompanied the sojourners. Finally, the morning of departure was upon them. Picture the caravan assembling outside the city walls and moat of earth. The camels and donkeys were laden, the flocks were assembled, the family and servants were settled into their places, and a sense of expectation was in the air. Perhaps all eyes turned to Abram, waiting for him to give the signal to go. Finally, the moment arrived and they set off, leaving earth behind forever.
So the A part of 11 and 12, what preparations and decisions needed to be made prior to leaving Ur? Sister White, please.
It wasn't a light task. They had their father who was elderly, but it was credited because in paragraph 11, Genesis 11:31, it says, Terah then took Abraham his son and Lot and his grandsons, the son of the land, out. So Abraham would have given Terah the honor, rather than Abraham taking the honor of rooting the family out. And it wasn't just Lot, it was Lot and the people, to people. So there were many that would have been their servants and maids and everybody else that was with them. So it was a big, big task.
Yes, very true. So now, what about the picture in the B part? How might we picture the morning of departure? So what type of picture would it have looked like that morning that they left? Brother McRae, please.
Well, when we think of all the camels tied together and the donkeys, all the flocks being directed and arranged, the people making sure that everyone was in their place, that the women were going to be comfortable for particularly the first part of the journey, and then waiting for direction. What time are we leaving? Okay, let's move. And then getting everything going, and off they go. First few metres of a long trek that was going to take a number of years before they settled.
Yes, very good. So you can imagine the anticipation. They didn't know where they were going, but they got prepared. They did whatever they could to take their father and all the belongings with them, but they made that move. They listened to Jehovah. Let's look at our final paragraph and see how we can relate it to our time today in paragraph 13, please.
Today, many servants of Jehovah decide to move to where there is a need for more kingdom preachers. Others desire to learn a new language and also form language. Or they decide to try some form of service that is outside their comfort zone. Such decisions generally require sacrifice, a willingness to forego some measure of material comfort. How commendable that spirit is, and how like the spirit of Abram and Sarah. If we show such faith, we can be assured that Jehovah will always give us far more than we give him. He never fails to reward faith. He did do so for Abram?
Thank you very much, Brother Mercer, for the reading. So how do many servants of Jehovah today show a similar spirit to that of Abram and Sarah? Brother, back here, please.
Students today make a matter of prayer to Jehovah to adjust the need for serving Jehovah where the need is great. We learn another language. We come out of their comfort zone and put their faith stronger to help others that need to make it home.
Yes, very good. And Sister Grant, please.
It just seems like the bigger the sacrifice, the bigger the rewards we will receive from Jehovah, and the more we get to see Jehovah acting in our behalf. And the only reason he does this is because he really truly appreciates everything that we do for him, no matter what our circumstances allow us.
Okay, very good. So, when we make these sacrifices, should we worry at all whether Jehovah notices them or not? What do you think? Brother over here, please.
No, not at all. Have that complete assurance in Hebrews 6:10 that God is not unrighteous as to forget your work and the love that you show for his name. So we know that Jehovah sees everything that we do, the sacrifices that we do, and that indeed is for us as well.
Yes, very good. And Sister Luna, please.
And Hebrews 6:11 brings out, moreover, without faith it is impossible to please God well, for whoever approaches God must believe that he is, and then he becomes the rewarder of those earnestly seeking him. So if we do things in faith with our love for Jehovah, he will always give us far more than we can give him.
Yes, very good. Okay. So thank you all for your comments. And I'll continue the meeting with Brother McRae, please.
Okay, commercial.
Well, welcome everyone to our Theocratic Ministry School for tonight. And we look forward to the efforts of all our students. Brother Christian has our Bible highlights from 2 Chronicles chapter 1 through to chapter 5. Thank you, Brother Christian.
So this week's reading is from 2 Chronicles 1 to 5, and it has an excellent example on prayer and what to ask Jehovah for as this world comes to a close. When we see Solomon, he's preparing for the temple. However, Jehovah appeared to Solomon in a dream and said to Solomon that he'll give him anything that he'll ask for. So what did Solomon ask for? What would the average person request today if they were approached by God so they can give anything? They asked for wealth, fame, good looks. Let's see what Solomon asked for here in 2 Chronicles chapter 1, and we'll have a look at verse 7. It said, "That night God appeared to Solomon and said to him, 'Ask what would you like me to give you?' And then in verse 10, it says, 'Give me now wisdom and knowledge to lead this people. But who can possibly judge this great people of yours?'" Yes, Solomon asked Jehovah for wisdom, and Jehovah admired him for asking for that, because you see in verse 12 it says, "Wisdom and knowledge will be given to you." You see what else he gave him? He said, "I'll also give you wealth and riches." So what if it was the other way around? What if Solomon would have asked for wealth and riches straight up? Would he have given him wisdom along with that? Well, no. He got wisdom, and all these other things were added to him. Therefore, Solomon must have been at least wise enough to ask for wisdom in the first place. What about us today? What are we asking for Jehovah, or from Jehovah on a regular basis? As this world becomes more challenging, are we asking Jehovah for less problems, or less challenge? Is that realistic? Or perhaps we should be asking for something else. Instead of asking for less problems, maybe ask for more reliance upon Him. We don't want to ask for less challenge, but perhaps pray for more wisdom and faith. And whenever we're in fear about something, and fear is something we all have at times in this system, think of it as that fear is faith in reverse gear. And it just means that we have more of an opportunity to pray to Jehovah to ask us for help in those challenges ahead. When we pray we can pray for a positive spiritual and mental attitude, and that we can be a source of encouragement to our brothers and sisters. So that's just one point I got from this week's reading. Perhaps you'd like to explain what you gained from this week's Bible reading. Thanks, Sister Lauren.
I have the same scripture as you, that Solomon had asked for wisdom and knowledge, and in verse 11 Jehovah said that it was because of his heart's desire that he blessed him with all these other things. And then we see that Solomon used his riches for the temple and for furthering the good news. We see in verse 2 and 6 that he knew that the heavens couldn't contain him, so the purpose of him building the temple was for a place for people making sacrificial smoke to him. So when he asked for wisdom, it was to help people to draw closer to Jehovah, and also with using his valuables as well. So similar with us, when we ask for wisdom and knowledge, we want to help people to come to be closer to Jehovah, but also use our valuables in furthering the good news.
Very good. Well brought out, Miss Lauren.
In chapter 2, verse 8, when he got the goods from King Hiram, he also wanted his workers, Solomon's workers, to work along with Hiram's because they were very skilled. So it just reminds us of the need for good training.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Visiting brother, thank you.
Chapter 4 and verse 4, there was told about the bulls that carried that malted seed. But it is worth to note that these bulls, they were not part of the worship. So the Israelites, they didn't break the rule of making something on earth for worship. But in the Bible, the bull is a symbol of strength, and that quality was needed to carry that big seed.
Thank you. Sister Graham, please.
In chapter 2, verse 14, it talks about how an experienced worker who had expertise in many different things had the privilege of helping to build the temple. And he also got to work along with others who were committed to true worship, and this all contributed to true worship in that day. And it just made me think of how Jehovah is doing the same thing today. He's using people in an extraordinary way in so many different fields to further his purpose. Construction is one of them, but also those who are involved in the website. All these people are dedicating their expertise to further Jehovah's purpose, and the result is that it's uniting people in true worship, just as it did in Solomon's day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, visiting brother.
In chapter 3, 17, we read about the pillars in front of the temple, one on the right and one on the left. The right one was called Yachin and the left was. Hebrew was written from right to left. So we would read the meaning if you look at the footnote, that it would say, May Jehovah firmly establish strength. So every time Hebrew would go to the temple or see the gate of the temple, he would read that line. So we can help to firmly establish true worship today.
Very good. Thank you very much. And just finally, sister, thank you.
So chapter 5, we can read how all the elders also supported Solomon and how they sacrificed so many things that they could not be even numbered or counted. And we can see this today similarly how the elders in all countries, in the whole world, support Jesus and his faithful slave.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you so much, brothers and sisters, for your fine comments tonight.
Just before we continue, we'd just like to ask the two gentlemen in the back row if you would like to leave the property, please.
Sorry?
If you'd like to leave the property or
Why would you want that? We're only sitting here trying to listen and learn about Jehovah and Jesus.
Well,
why would you throw us out? As soon as I come in, the gentleman accused me of having a laser light. I explained it wasn't. What has Jehovah's Witnesses got to hide? Is it all because of the Australian Royal Commission? The Australian Royal Commission recently proved Brother Jackson admitted that you've got a child molesting problem. You've got a child molesting problem. There's so many child molesters within Jehovah's Witnesses organisation. And we've come here to protect the little children of Jehovah's Witnesses. We're fed up with Jehovah's Witnesses continuing. Look at the way they treat you. Look how Jehovah's Witnesses treat people who are trying. Look, are they going to attack me? I will. Those guys are making some sense, I didn't start disrupting nothing. You people are cruel. Look the way they treat you. Hey? I'm getting old nasty, right? Hey, one point, bro. I've got... Hey, look how the Jehovah's Witness treat you. Look how Jehovah's Witness treat you in a lovely Buddhist country, like Thailand. Hey? We love Buddha. And look, Jehovah's Witnesses are telling people to hate false religion. Yes, they are. Jehovah's Witnesses teach hate. Come on then. Teach hate. Look how you treated me. A man off the street, you don't know me. Why would you throw? What? I've never been here before. No, I haven't. You say you're a Christian. Are you following Jesus? Don't instruct